One of my favorite scenes from Evangelion is the freedom scene from the original ending, episode 26. I think the scene has a lot of meaning, questioning the ideas of freedom and how no one is truly free of anything. But I'm here to analyze the visual aspect of the scene. This is the cinematography of Evangelion's freedom scene. Our first shot is of Shinji floating in the void. First, let's note that this shot is colorless, along with many other shots in the scene. You might think this is because of time or budget restrictions, but considering a lot of this episode is colored, even just with markers, I think this is an intentional visual decision. This depicts a world of perfect freedom, with nothing to tie you down. Shinji in this scene is free of color as well, as color and character design can tell you about a character or who a character is. But on a deeper, more real level, this may be a stretch by the way, Shinji is Japanese, so him being devoid of color could also be a way to mean that he's lacking race as well, which makes him entirely free because, in our world, racism can control how others perceive you and how you are treated, so you aren't totally free with color. But that is just one interpretation of the scene, and you could see it as a race allegory or just him lacking color because color lacks total freedom. Either way, color would restrict Shinji, meaning he is less free. We then get a text box that says freedom before cutting to the next shot. I think this text is important in making the point that total freedom means there is nothing but you. We then cut to a shot of Shinji floating in a void again, but now he is no longer shaded like he was before. I don't think this particular change has any meaning, but if you have any ideas, leave them in the comments. He then gets a floor and gravity to stand on. Showing him going from floating to having gravity visually shows the point of losing true freedom with every rule of the world, but in this change, despite losing freedom, he now can do something, like walk. Now let's talk about something I love about this shot, the boiling line effect, also known as squiggle vision. As you can see, the line shakes and shifts slightly every few frames, creating motion when there is none. This technique makes the shot less static and more visually interesting, instead of the audience just looking at a still image. Next, we get a montage of the world changing positions, and because of that, each shot changes camera angles to show the different perspectives in which we can see Shinji. They also add a light source behind Shinji to create a long shadow in the opposite direction from the source. They are visually adding more layers to the scene as Shinji loses more and more freedom. However, the world becomes clearer because of it. Next is this extremely well animated shot of Shinji morphing and changing his form. He becomes different living things before becoming an angel and a cross. Notice how this shot adds color to the scene. We are losing another degree of freedom visually. We can no longer guess or interpret the color for ourselves. We are being told what the color is. The cross gets set on fire and becomes water before becoming a red eye. Why a red eye? Well, Rei has red eyes. And in this moment of the third impact, aka human instrumentality, Rei merges with Adam and then fuses with Lilith to start the entire event. So I believe this is in reference to that. We cut to Shinji laying down on the floor and it shows his loneliness by placing him as the only thing in the shot. We then cut to an abstract animation where one line splits into two, and these abstract lines and shapes become representational. The line morphs into fish and then cats and then humans, visually showing that Shinji needs to allow others to exist to create a sense of self. As the characters speak about how you need others to understand and be yourself, the shape of the human is flung around the screen. Next, the shot zooms out, showing the shape of other humans inside you because others help shape you. The shot shows that humans need other humans to become themselves, and you will always carry those you know inside of you. The human shape morphs into Shinji's face to create a close-up of his face. This is a really interesting way to get to a close-up that I've never seen before the show. He then morphs into his body, again transitioning between two different shots while technically being the same shot, which is awesome in my opinion. We see Shinji because this is his shape. We then dolly into Shinji's face as he realizes that he needs other people to be himself. This allows us to see his emotion as he realizes it. We then dolly out so far that Shinji disappears, allowing us to transition to Asuka's face. Notice how Asuka is colored, but just with a marker in the shot. And then in the next shot of Shinji waking up, he's fully colored normally. I think this is a nice way to transition from no color at all back to the original style of the show, by going from sketchy lines to sketchy coloring to full normal coloring. It could have just cut back to normal style, but that may have been too jarring for the audience. And the scene ends here. I think this scene is really interesting in its visuals, and I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Subscribe for more anime and Evangelion content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.